Hey, Eastern Oregon, thank you for joining us today for this COVID update. And I want to be sure and thank our sponsors, Grand Ron Hospital, who has been a long-term sponsor of EO Alive, and EONI, who provides internet for us. Thank you guys also for your continual support. And like always today, it's a pleasure for Carrie to be here with me. And Carrie, thanks for doing this. It seems like we've been doing these meetings forever. I wish there were an end in sight. How did your Thanksgiving go with all of this business?
Oh, it was fine. I think like most folks, we definitely did not have the same Thanksgiving that we're used to having every year. And I'll be very honest that it was pretty hard to not have some of our family there to celebrate. Thanksgiving for my family is one of the holidays where we usually see all of our relatives. It's like the only holiday each year where the whole family comes, and we didn't get to do that this year. So, like a lot of people in the community, we definitely had a different day. Definitely wasn't the same as usual, but really felt that it was important to switch things up a little bit just to make sure that we weren't taking any unnecessary risks. So really looking forward to next Thanksgiving where everybody can be at the table again.
Yeah, and I think, you kind of find different ways of adapting. We had some family from Portland that did not come. And so, there was a period of time where we had Zoom open and there was kind of an open channel and had that way of communicating. But, what a weird, awkward thing that is. And to our viewers, I want to be sure and remind you that if you have questions as we're talking, to be sure and put those in the comment section. And we will either answer those live or even after the fact respond to some of those comments. So, well, Carrie, thanks for coming on today. And so let's just start with kind of what the new news is. What's going on and what applies to us right here in Union County.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's new news. I'm sure the last time that I was here with you, we had started to see an increase in cases in Union County. And unfortunately, we've continued to see a pretty steady flow of cases over the last month or so. I was looking at the numbers today. We surpassed 800 cases. And a lot of those cases, like 300 of those cases, happened within the last month or so. So, we went from having a fairly steady lower number of case counts to all of a sudden having a pretty significant increase. So, unfortunately, that means that there's more virus in the community. There's more people that are sick. There's more people that are being asked to isolate and quarantine. So, yeah, I think that's definitely not unexpected. We talked a lot here about how we anticipated that when fall came around that the case counts would increase, but unfortunately that's what we're seeing today. And that has certainly led to some actions by, the state government to put some restrictions or additional mitigations in place to stop or slow the spread of the virus, with the hope that we can keep the spread low and reduce the serious and severe outcomes until we're able to get a vaccine on the ground and giving people that protection so we can hopefully move back to some more normalcy next year.
Yeah. Now, and you and I have talked quite a bit about how we've only tested people here in Union County that met a particular criteria. And you guys had a free testing event the other day, and you have some other testing events, free testing events that are coming up, which actually is good for us. Good in the sense that, from a statistical standpoint, if you're only testing the people that you suspect might have COVID, then there's a higher percentage than normal of positives that will come back from that testing. And so talk about the rationale behind these free testing clinics and when you're having them, and kind of give us the details about that.
Yeah, and it's interesting when you said it's good for us. Like, the first place that my mind went was not necessarily related to test positivity, but was really related to if we can give you information about whether or not you have the virus, then you are able to take concrete actions to reduce the spread. If you know that you are positive and you know you have COVID-19, then you know that you need to isolate, and you know how long you need to isolate for. And you also know that if you had a close contact during the period of time where you might expose somebody else, then you can tell them that they should be quarantining. And I feel like at this point in time, when we look at our county's numbers and we look at the risk categories that we're operating under as a state, one of the best methods that we have right now for getting our numbers down and under control is actually testing. Because I understand people might be concerned that if we do mass testing that we're going to drive the numbers up. And I think, initially we might have a blip because we might identify more people that are positive. But over the long term, if we give people that information and then they take the actions to isolate and quarantine, then that's actually one of the best strategies we have right now to get our numbers down. So yes, being able to do broader testing could potentially bring our test positivity rate down, which would also be beneficial. But right now we're in a situation where we still really do want to encourage people that are symptomatic or who know they were in contact with the case to be tested, because if you don't fit either one of those categories, the test is really just a point in time information. So if I don't fit any of those categories right now today, I'm not a contact to a confirmed case. I haven't tested positive. So if I go and get tested, what it's going to tell me is that today, in this moment, right now, I'm negative. But tomorrow I could come into contact with somebody and be exposed. So I think we still really want to prioritize and emphasize testing for people that have a concrete reason to believe that they have COVID-19, which is symptoms or contact to a confirmed case. But nonetheless, having more information about who has COVID-19, again, will help us put those protections into place, isolation and quarantine. So we have the opportunity during the month of December to provide 3 community testing events. They're going to be held the next 3 Mondays of the month from 12 to 6 p.m. And there's a couple of really nice things about these testing events. One is that you can register online at the website doineedacovid19test.com. And if you go on there, you can find Union County's testing information. You go through a really brief registration process. I think they ask you like 5 questions. You select an appointment, and then you get a voucher number. You show up on that day at your appointment time, give them your voucher number, and then we're using a self-administered nasal swab. So it's not the test that you might have heard about where it goes really far up your nose. It's actually, they give you the swab, you do it yourself, and then you go about your business, you go on your way, and you might have the results within a couple of days. They're saying 3 to 5 days, but it seems to be a quicker turnaround time than the tests that we're able to offer at CHD. So there's the benefit that you get a quick result, super easy turnaround time, easy registration, doesn't take too long. And like I said, it will give you good information so you can take action to reduce the risk to our community and hopefully get those numbers down.
And you had a similar event the other day. I mean, and I drove by and took some pictures, did a little bit of a live stream, and it looks like there's I don't know, almost like a drive-in restaurant. I mean, there's a place where people come in and they register. Now, one thing that is important is people need to pre-register for this event. And so,
yeah.
and that information is on the screen. It's also in the comments so that people can click on that link directly and so on and so forth.
Yeah, it's really important that they pre-register, and honestly, it's just to make it easier for you. I think the other thing that I didn't mention that I think is a benefit to this testing event is that you get the results online. So you're going to have those results sent directly to you. If you get tested at your healthcare provider or at CHD, we get that report and then we have to call you and notify you. Because you're registering on that website, you'll get the results before long before we're able to get those results and give you a phone call. So there's just a lot of benefits to doing this event, and we're really grateful to have this opportunity for this month. So hopefully people will take advantage of it, especially people that fit into those categories of being sick or being a contact to somebody that has COVID.
Yeah, and one of the comments from one of our viewers who I happen to know is an employee at CHD is that for those people that don't have a computer, they also can, make contact with the office there, and they'll help them get registered for that event also. Yeah.
Yeah, and we don't want that. If you don't have a computer or don't have means to go onto the website and register, please don't let that be a deterrent. You can contact us and we'll help make sure that you get tested.
Good. All right. Well, thank you, and thank you for that. And now, are the tests are these more or less invasive? Okay, that was not right. But anyhow, are these how is the accuracy of these tests compared to the more invasive tests where they're like sticking it halfway through your head?
Yeah, so these are the same type. It's a PCR test, and I'll be honest with you, like I'm not a healthcare provider, so I don't know the ins and outs of what all of those things mean. But what I do know is that we really feel like the PCR test is accurate, and this is just a different method of collection. So, I'm not concerned at all that people are going to get the same result with this less invasive option.
Okay. And we've talked about this again before, is that COVID makes its way through the body into different places where it is. And if for some reason, if it has not made it to the front of your nasal passage or to the back of the nasal passage, and it gets swabbed there, then it's not going to show up. And so and you've mentioned that before. You could have a test one day and 5 days later have it and test positive, but you probably had it the first time that you were tested negative. So that's just kind of the way the tests are working right now. So
yeah, and it's about it's definitely how much virus you have in your system, whether or not it's detectable by a test. And so let's say I'm positive right now, and you and I came into contact with each other and you fit that criteria for being a close contact of mine. If you went out and got tested tomorrow, chances are your test is not going to come up positive because it needs a little bit of time for the virus to build up in your system to the point where your test would come back positive. So what we're really encouraging people to do is wait maybe like 5 days. I think we want a little bit of time to pass just so we can get the most accurate result. We certainly don't want to test you the day after you were a close contact and have it come back negative because it's probably not going to be enough virus in your system to be detectable at that point.
All right. So the big impact, one of the big announcements was the governor talked about, because we have been in a freeze, and now the freeze is over tomorrow, I believe, but our situation here locally is not changing. So talk about the new criteria, the governor's announcement, how that affects us. And I don't know, talk about that whole topic a little bit, if you would.
Yeah, so I think that we all anticipated, based on the information the governor put out early on in the freeze, that there would be new criteria that would be coming out that they would be using to kind of do away with the phase-based system that we had. We had the phases 1, 2, and 3, and this is really one standard that's being used across the state. The metrics that they are using are very, very closely aligned with the school metrics. So again, they were trying to have more continuity and try and make things a little bit simpler. So as we move into tomorrow, I think you're right. I think the date is tomorrow. I think the freeze is ending tomorrow. We have 4 risk categories that basically, depending on the data for your county, you will look at those risk categories to kind of determine what types of activities are permitted given the level of risk for transmission of the virus. So I know that when you and I talked prior to coming on that you were going to show the map maybe of the counties in the state of Oregon. Right now, there are 25 counties that fit the extreme risk category. I think it's impactful or, just helpful for me to know that we're not alone, that most of the state, literally most of the state, is in this extreme risk category. So most of our state at this point in time is being asked to put some mitigations in place that are based on this extreme risk. So they're, honestly not that different from the freeze recommendations. So, limiting our social gathering sizes, limiting in-person dining, stopping some recreational activities that are considered to be high risk just based on the type of activities that they are. And then also asking businesses and offices to lower their capacity. Also, having people do remote work if they're able to, closing offices to the public and things like that. Again, with the intention of reducing the amount of interaction we're having with people outside of our household, something that we've talked about a lot. And then hopefully this will reduce our case counts and get us back to the point where we're in some of those lower risk categories that will allow us to start having some more activities that we're not having now.
All of that, thank you for that. But as I talked to some of the elected officials off the record about the new risk factors and standards, this is stringent. I mean, it's not hard. I mean, I think that. So right now, I don't know what our average is, but I don't know, just a guess. I would say we're at least 5 cases a day, or have been over the course of the last, the last month or so, maybe even more. And and again, this isn't exact, but for us to be out of the category where we could actually have some kind of normal business like what we were a month ago or a month and a half ago, we would have to have somewhere in the area of no more than 5 cases a week. And so we're quite a ways away from having any kind of normal life in Union County under these new structures. Is that your take on that?
I mean, I don't know that I completely agree. I think that I don't disagree that the metrics are, we're definitely not there right now. We would need to have less than or equal to 60 cases in a 2-week period. And last week we had 92, and the week before that we had 93. So, so far this week we have 27. Depending on what happens for the rest of the week, does that mean, over the course of the next 2 weeks, we could get down below 60? Possibly. I think the test positivity rate is also one that we've been above 10, which is what the requirement is, again, to not be in that extreme category. And right now, the reality is that there's enough people in the community that have the virus that our test positivity rate is higher, because people are, when they test, they're testing positive because we have a lot of virus in the community. I feel like I just try really hard to focus on the things that we do have control over. And I think that's why earlier I was trying to really encourage people that might have the virus or might be contacts to people that have the virus to really focus on taking actions to limit the risk to others around them. Because I do feel like if we can do a good job of having people isolate and quarantine if they're sick or exposed, if we do continue to implement the mitigations, we really work hard to stay 6 feet away from people that are outside of our household. We be diligent in wearing our face coverings. We take it very seriously that we don't go to work when we're symptomatic, even if we feel like our symptoms are mild, just really trying our best to limit the exposure to other people if there's a chance that we're ill. I think that those steps really can make a difference. And I think, the other thing that I've been reflecting a lot about today is that those things can also make a difference in protecting the people in our community that are most likely to have a serious or severe outcome that will likely be able to get a vaccine in 3 to 6 months. And if we can just put all of those protections in place to the greatest extent possible, I believe we can make a difference. I believe we can get those numbers down. How far? I think we'll just have to see. But I do think there are things that are within our control and there are things that we can do. And I think that, I know we've shown up to help our community before, and I think we can just keep, doing our best to implement those mitigations, and that there might be a chance that we could get the numbers down. But yeah, I mean, they're definitely, we have a ways to go based on our data today.
So you said if we had, what did you say, less than 60 in a 2-week period of time,
Yeah.
then that takes us down to the next category, correct? I mean, or does that take us down? I mean, normal, whatever normal was a month ago when restaurants were open somewhat, I mean, I guess that's the kind of, and from my, I mean, the impact that it has on us personally is one thing. We can manage that. I personally can make those sacrifices and manage that stuff. But, my office is in downtown La Grande. We've got restaurants that are closed, and there's just nothing on the horizon to help them. And so then I guess for me, that's kind of one of the things I'm looking at is, okay, where do we need to be at in order for some of those businesses to start having some income? And
right.
that's why I asked that question.
Right. And I think, if we were less than 30 in a 2-week period would get us back down to that low risk category. So, when I'm talking about less than or equal to 60 in a 2-week period, we're talking about moving out of the extreme risk into high risk. So, I mean, you're right. There's definitely a gap there. And I think that, like I said, I think the ways that we can help those businesses be in a position to be able to open, to be able to change the guidance or move from different categories of guidance, the things that we can do are the things that, I was just talking about and I've been talking about. And I know that people are, kind of tired of it. It's really hard to change our normal behaviors for such a long period of time. But, I do think that if people want to see our businesses being able to have in-person dining or be more open to the community, that their individual actions can make a difference in getting our whole county there. So just really encouraging people. And, we've been there before. We had low numbers before. So I have faith that we can get back to that point. And I feel like with the vaccine on the horizon, we just have to hold out a little bit longer and really try and continue to do whatever we can so we can get to that point where things will open back up again. We're not going to do this forever.
And that's a really good, I really appreciate you making that point and drawing that conclusion that the actions, our personal actions do affect those businesses that have to be closed right now that are trying to survive. So that's a really good point. Thank you. So the vaccine, you have a guess on, on a rural area. I mean, no one knows for sure when it's going to be here and available and so on and so forth. But when it is, how do you think that's going to be distributed? I don't know. What's your best guess at how that might impact us as a rural community? How would it be distributed? I don't know. Give us some information on what you have a guess on as far as that is concerned.
Yeah, and I'm happy to talk about that. I do feel like at this point, it's a little bit of a guess based on limited information that we're getting from the federal government and our state partners. I think that there's definitely hope on the horizon for the vaccine. I think when we first started talking about a vaccine and people were talking about having one by the end of the year, I will be honest with you, I did not anticipate that to happen. And based on what I'm hearing now, it's possible that we will have vaccine in the state of Oregon within the next 2 weeks. So, I think there definitely, we have multiple options for vaccines that have been developed, and the testing and trial information that's coming back is that they're very effective with low side effects. And so it's, again, really promising information that we have coming down. I think the challenge is going to be that there's probably not going to be enough vaccine initially to vaccinate everybody that wants to be vaccinated. So we're going to need to create priorities. And I'm sure a lot of folks have heard on the news that the CDC has been meeting to think about how we prioritize the distribution of these initial waves of vaccine. I know the Oregon Health Authority has been thinking about it and planning, and our own county incident management team is also looking at how we would, prioritize distribution locally. How much vaccine we'll get and when we'll get vaccine, it's honestly, I don't have any concrete information, but I'm pretty hopeful that we will see some. And when we get to that, we will definitely be looking at priorities for where we can be strategic, at least initially, and probably thinking, likely categories of people that would be prioritized would be healthcare workers. Obviously giving them protection. They're most likely to come into contact with people that have the illness, and we need them to take care of people that have the illness. Obviously, our long-term care facilities, folks that are in the higher risk categories, would be likely to be prioritized initially as well. First responders, of course, they fit into the healthcare workers. In my mind, they're in the same category. So I think those are the things we'll have to think through. But I think the good news is that there's multiple options. They're looking to be highly effective with low side effects or risks. And I think there's a chance we could have some coming to our state as soon as December. So it's all good news. So we just need to continue doing what we've been doing. And that will just, hopefully within the next 6 months to a year, we'll have enough vaccine to get everybody who wants a vaccine.
Yeah. Just keep going just a little bit longer. And again, we're getting a few questions on testing on Facebook, and just to reiterate what you said earlier, and that is that it just the testing events that are coming up, those free testing events, the primary purpose is that it gives us intelligence, us as the citizens. It gives us information that we might not have, so then that we have the ability to isolate ourselves from people that might be vulnerable even more than what we already are. So, and I think that that's a really good thing. And do people, again, just to end with that conversation, do people do they need to have insurance, or do they pay at the time? I mean, is there any requirement for them to be a part of those testing events?
No, the testing events are 100% no cost. You do not need to pay. You do not need to have insurance. And I think, again, this is part of the reason why these testing events are a nice benefit for our community, because if there were any deterrent for somebody, not wanting to seek it in another place because they're uninsured, or, there might be some sort of a copay or cost for the office visit, this eliminates that. So no cost. The only thing we ask you to do is, if you're able to, register on that website in advance, because that just makes everything a lot easier once you get there and saves time. So yeah, no cost, no insurance needed.
And I know that in the comments there is also a phone number. People don't have access to a computer or a smartphone, they can call and make those arrangements over the phone also. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, Carrie, thank you.
Thank you.
Again, let's see, and real quick, just RAP services. Talk just briefly about that again, what that is, and I'll put that information up about the RAP services.
Perfect. Yeah, I think this is something we really just want to make sure that people know that we have a large group of folks that are able to help you isolate or quarantine if needed. So, we know that not everybody has the resources and support they need to be able to stay home for 10 to 14 days. So, if you contact our RAP services number or email, basically with any kind of need that you have to isolate and quarantine, they will work really hard to help you get that need met. So, if it's if you need somebody to get you food, or pick up your medicine, or if you're struggling with your finances because you're not able to earn an income during that period of time, just reach out to that RAP services line, and they will try and help get you the support that you need to make that that isolation and quarantine easier for you.
Excellent. All right. Well, Carrie, thank you again so much, and we'll talk to you again in a couple of weeks. And thank you, Grand Ronde Hospital and EONI, for your support in continuing this program. And we will